this morning. What was she? Was she ringing you up to see about a walk, or what was it?
Going swimming.
Pardon?
Going swimming.
Her knees quite sore.
Mm.
see all of the comic books that we have on that link. You are also able to see the short film that we've...
The Curragh. Oh, of course it is. The Curragh. All right, 10 minutes past catch the team, 1 minute and 29 seconds remaining. Here we go. The time starts again. Now, something ovoid is shaped like what that's made. Correct? Sunny is a...
That's about my hearing aid, not done where it is.
My robot. Correct. Who is the Greek god of fire?
Vulcan.
No, that is wrong. Stop the clock.
I genuinely don't know. I can't even think.
Need an answer, team, please.
Thor.
Is wrong. Correct answer is Hephaestus. It is indeed.
Blacksmith god.
Yep, 8 required. Here we go. Your time starts again. Now, bobble and summer types of what fashion item?
Coat.
Start the clock.
It's hat spread.
Hat is correct. Bobble hat and sun hat, as opposed to bobble coat and sun coat. We push the chaser back. 9 required. All right, here we go. Chaser, your time starts again. Now, in a Kenny Rogers hit, who picked A Fine Time to Leave?
Lucille.
Correct. Which of the 5 senses is affected by astigmatism?
Sight.
Correct. What quartet of books ended with a division of the spoils?
The Raj Quartet.
Correct. Springer and Cocker are breeds of what dog?
Daniel.
Correct. Who did Kate Bosworth play in the film Superman Returns?
Lois Lane.
Correct. What was the first Italian football club to win the European Cup?
AC
Iceland.
Milan.
Correct. An English jury usually consists of how many people?
12.
Correct. A bicorn animal has 2 of what?
Horns.
Correct. What Swiss food company owns the Nesquik brand?
Nestle.
Correct. The Raj Quartet. Great answer. 4 chances of pushbacks, only 2 executed. Caught with 27 seconds remaining. I've got to say, when they're on that form, it's a tough old job.
Well played, man.
Yeah, it's always tough against Mark, I think. So we had a good day out.
Yeah, well, it's great playing alongside you, it really has. But I've got to say, got to take away the £9,000 and tell you that Jodie, Simon, and Neil, you have been caught, and for you, the chase is now over. Beastie Boys, some great answers there, mate.
Well, one good answer, some bad ones, but fortunately, the difference between 15 and 20 is you can get away with a bobble answer and
Yeah.
literally bobble it and recover. You guys played well, but there were 2 or 3 I think you know you should have got, and Bradley will tell you, for us, 18 to 19, pressure, 15, it's a job to do.
It is indeed. Well, the job has been done, and my team get caught with 27 seconds remaining, and they go home empty-handed. So, could you take money from a chaser? Please, come and have a go if you think you're clever enough. We'll see you next time on The Chase. Goodbye.
Let's try and
Tonight on One News, the mounting bid to dump Trump after the Capitol
Dump
rampage.
Trump.
Friends flee an enemy circle. The president could be banished before his time is up. Shock and grief in a holiday hotspot after a fatal shark attack. A frantic effort to save the young victim at Waihi Beach. And what led to her death? Locking down and masking up in the face of a COVID nightmare. How Australia's fighting the rampant British variant and what we'd have to do if it broke out here. Kia ora, good evening. The US president
Kia ora.
has finally agreed to a peaceful White House handover, a day after his supporters ransacked the US Capitol. Donald Trump has spoken of healing and reconciliation, but his enemies say it's too little, too late. Fearful of what he could still do with 2 weeks left in power, they're rallying to remove him from office. Our US correspondent Anna Burns-Francis sent this report from Washington, D.C.
As dawn broke over the Capitol, America woke to a new reality.
It was terrible and a complete disgrace. I mean, they are just allowed to, the mob is just allowed to walk in.
Yesterday's attack on Congress, an assault encouraged by the president.
You'll never take back our country with weakness.
But today, the message from his administration was distinctly different.
Now it is time for America to unite. We are one American people under God. Thank you very much.
And then tonight, a change in tone from the man himself.
To those who engaged in the acts of violence and destruction, you do not represent our country. And to those who broke the law, you will pay.
The president sharing the message on Twitter after being banned from Facebook indefinitely. Either way, it's too little, too late.
Yesterday, in my view, one of the darkest days in the history of our nation.
Joe Biden laying blame at the foot of the president.
What we witnessed yesterday was not dissent, it was not disorder, it was not protest, it was chaos. They weren't protesters. Don't dare call them protesters. They were a riotous mob, insurrectionists, domestic terrorists.
Donald Trump still has 2 weeks left in the job, and many are calling for something to be done about a president who for hours sat inside the White House refusing to call for an end to the violence. Democrats demanding Vice President Mike Pence invoke Article 25, declaring Mr. Trump unfit to hold office, and threatening to impeach the president themselves.
The president's abuse of power, his incitement of a mob against the duly elected representative body of the United States is a manifestly impeachable offense, if there ever was an impeachable offense.
But any action taken against Mr. Trump could incite further unrest, despite claims like this from his supporters.
I didn't observe personally any violence. Violence? No. I heard about violence after the fact.
Loyalists still in Washington today, some claiming they had no part in what occurred at the Capitol.
We're patriotic people. We didn't want to destroy this building.
But charges are being laid, arrests made. The Capitol Police Chief has quit, as have senior administration staff. US media speculating the mounting losses finally forced the front up today.
My focus now turns to ensuring a smooth, orderly, and seamless transition of power.
His is an administration on fire, but having fanned the flames of hate, the president's now trying to extinguish any further action from his most loyal supporters.
All right, Anna is with us now from Washington. Kia ora, Anna. What's happening around you near the Capitol building tonight?
Just add some more. It was this one.
Well, Melissa, it's been a fairly quiet day, one might say, in Washington, D.C., especially compared to yesterday. While there were still some Trump supporters in town, we thought most had left and that things might be quite quiet tonight. But in the last few moments, while we were setting up for this live cross, we suddenly saw a lot of police action. We've seen dozens of police cars flying down the avenues around us. We've seen Capitol Police from behind me in the Congress grounds running down the fields and running through the streets. Numbers of those, maybe perhaps a couple of hundred of them racing down the street. We could hear some shouting. They have now started slowly returning. The threat, whatever it was, has dissipated, but certainly if we thought that President Trump's video this evening was going to placate those remaining supporters, to send everybody home and send everyone a message of calm, it seems that this is still a city under threat with a lot of uncertainty around what people may or may not be planning to do.
Ngā mihi, Anna, you're going to stay with us and join us again shortly. Thank you. Despite weeks of warning, the rioters were able to breach the Capitol, the heart of America's democracy, with apparent ease. A stunning security failure leading to 5 deaths, widespread destruction, and long-term damage to a superpower's reputation. Emily Van Veldhoven with this.
A country with one of the biggest defence budgets in the world, unable to stop this.
Why are we spending $700 billion on the military every year if the military can't effectively defend the United States Capitol from attack?
This video showing just how outnumbered security was.
The men and women of the Metropolitan Police Department went into a situation that was already out of control.
Among the chaos, 35-year-old Air Force veteran Ashley Babbitt was shot dead by police trying to climb through a window. A police officer today also succumbing to his injuries. It's the second time the building's been stormed in just over 200 years. The British Army, the last to attack in 1814. Despite the president encouraging supporters, authorities say they didn't see it coming.
There was no intelligence that suggested there would be a breach of the U.S. Capitol, but we anticipated certainly that there would be an increased number of people into our city.
Clearly, we need to make serious changes to the way that our capital is defended, and we need to start implementing those changes now.
Today, anger over how this overwhelmingly white crowd was treated compared to those at last year's Black Lives Matter protests.
I don't think they should be comparing it to Black Lives Matter.
There wouldn't have been, they would have been treated very differently.
The FBI releasing hundreds of wanted posters, seemingly desperate
why
to hold
is it
those
that they have
responsible
to
to
make
account.
everything into a racial
The cleanup
issue?
continues, but nothing will remove the stain Trump-inspired rioters left on American democracy. Emily Van Veldhoven, One News.
Okay, Anna, it's been an incredible couple of days. Where to now for Mr. Trump's supporters?
Well, Melissa, you have to say, even if most of them have headed home, and today we spoke to supporters from right across the country, some of them had driven all the way from California, so certainly they felt very loyal to Mr. Trump and felt like this rally and the action on Congress was their last hope. And although they made it to the Senate chamber, they made it to Nancy Pelosi's office, they didn't get what they wanted, which was they wanted to stop the certification of that vote. And of course, it went ahead. Joe Biden will be the president, and they left the grounds saying that they would be back. Well, there's been plenty of noise about what action they may have taken up until January the 6th, but where to from here? Their anger hasn't dissipated, their grievances still remain, and America has a lot of reckoning to do. The Republican Party is fractured, the GOP will have to decide if it sticks with Mr. Trump, and just because the inauguration is in a couple of weeks' time, they won't wake up on January the 21st with a united country. It'll be some time before America comes to grips with what happened in DC.
Tēnā koe, Anna, from Washington DC for us tonight. Witnesses say a young woman killed by a shark at a Waihi beach yesterday had been swept out to sea before the attack. Police say they're not in a position to name the victim, and her death has been referred to the coroner. Sam Calway reports.
A grey and dismal morning at Bonetown Beach, the few who visited offering small tributes, others huddling quietly in their grief.
I've got to pay my respects, you know. Could have been me.
Amanda Gold and her family were in the water when the shark struck. She says a group of swimmers got into difficulty.
They were out of their depth and there was a rope. The girl got pulled in the rope, got pulled quite far at the back. She was out there for a long time, I think for a while.
She estimates the victim was nearly 100 metres out to sea when she was attacked.
It just looked like she was sort of going up and down out there, and then I noticed the big shadow lurking around underneath the water.
Yeah, so our lifeguards were heavily involved in the incident. They were the first on the scene, and they brought the young woman to shore and began some treatment.
Paramedics doing all they could to keep her alive.
Yeah, they pulled her in, and unfortunately had to do CPR on the beach, and they were doing it for a really long time. Nothing, it obviously wasn't working.
About a dozen fatal shark attacks had been recorded in New Zealand, the most recent in 2013 when filmmaker Adam Strange was killed while swimming at Auckland's Muriwai Beach. Police forced to fire at the shark to retrieve his body. Waihi locals say there have been a number of recent shark sightings.
I looked down and I could see a massive shark. It was only probably 50, 60 metres out.
A woman staying at the campground says a day before the attack, a shark had been seen near the patrolled area. Swimmers were ordered from the water. Just last week, a great white was hooked at Bonetown, but bit through the line. The shark expert says 4 juvenile great whites are known to frequent the area.
There can certainly been reports of one shark, one great white, around about 3 metres long, and been seen in the Bonetown harbour before Christmas.
He advises people to avoid any areas where people are fishing. A week-long rahui is in place, including a swimming ban where the attack occurred. Sam Calway, One
What's
News.
a rahui?
In 3 hours' time, Brisbane will go into a 3-day lockdown in an attempt to stop a highly infectious strain of COVID-19, which has arrived from the United Kingdom. It comes after a cleaner at a quarantine hotel tested positive for the mutant strain. Ryan Boswell reports.
From the freedom of Auckland to lockdown in Brisbane.
Passengers on board what was supposed to be the first quarantine-free flight between the two cities now forced to spend 3 days in isolation.
If we do not do this now, it could end up being a 30-day lockdown.
A cleaner at a quarantine hotel yesterday tested positive to the highly contagious UK strain of COVID-19. They'd spent 5 days in the community, prompting the state government to keep people at home from 6 o'clock tonight until 6 o'clock on Monday.
This UK strain is highly infectious. It is 70% more infectious, and we are going to go hard and we are going to go early.
Long lines formed quickly outside supermarkets with a warning not to panic buy.
Oh, it's ridiculous. I was in the line for about an hour and 10 just to get to the checkout.
I see both sides of it. If you've got big families, like that's a normal 3 days of food.
Masks are now mandatory in Queensland for those who need to go out for essential work, healthcare, food or exercise, and for all Australians who want to fly.
Yes, a very, very busy morning, selling masks of all different varieties. Unfortunately, we've sold out of a lot of those variants.
Those coming into the country from Britain will now need a rapid test before they board. The Prime Minister promising Australians they'll be vaccinated sooner than expected.
We are now in a position where we believe we'll be able to commence vaccinations of high priority groups in mid to late February.
The rollout happening in 5 stages with quarantine and border staff, frontline health officials and those living and working in aged care at the top of the list. Ryan Boswell, One News.
An expert here is warning we'd need another top-level lockdown if the British variant slipped into our community. 8 cases have so far been detected at the border, with more predicted over the coming weeks. Here's Andrew McFarlane.
Behind this fence is a variant of COVID-19. If it were to get out, it could be catastrophic. Officials in Britain, where it was first detected, warn the mutation could be 70% more infectious.
We are seeing over 800 patients a day admitted to London hospitals.
This diagram shows just how easily the original strain of COVID-19 spreads between people. Conservative estimates of this new variant have it at 50% more infectious, meaning it could spread further quicker.
It does mean there's more risk at our border now, because we don't understand why it's more transmissible, but we do know it is more transmissible, and so that means there's more risks in our border facilities.
The new strain coming into New Zealand definitely poses a real potential threat.
And if it takes hold,
we'd probably be looking at having to use level 4 to try and eliminate it.
Medical experts are hoping for the best, but preparing for the worst.
Look, to a large extent, it's a fingers crossed until we don't get there. But but let's make sure we've got enough PPE on board in case we do. Let's make sure that we have got contingency plans in place in case we are going to be inundated with people wanting to be tested.
There are now 8 people in managed isolation with the UK strain of the virus. The Health Ministry says they're cared for the same way as other COVID cases and claims there's no heightened risk to the wider community.
The new strain does mean that in order to achieve herd immunity with the vaccine, we'll need to vaccinate more people. The more infectious, more transmissible a disease is, the more people you need to vaccinate.
Concerns over the variant in Australia have seen them bring vaccine plans forward. Our government has no plans to change the schedule. Andrew McFarlane, One News.
A 14-year-old boy has been charged with murder after a fatal stabbing in the Bay of Islands. Emergency services were called to the Roadrunner Tavern in Upua near Paihia at 11 o'clock last night. They found a wounded 22-year-old man outside the local bar. He died on the way to hospital. The team was due to appear in the Whangarei Youth Court late this afternoon. Police say a truck driver is very, very lucky after his vehicle left the road and plunged down a bank on the Crown Range near Queenstown. The truck landed on its roof, trapping the driver.
Oh, the little butterfly.
Police say he suffered just a bump to the head and a sore shoulder, but was flown to hospital for further checks where he's in a stable condition.
It's about a 10-tonne truck, so a small truck coming down the Crown Range Road has lost control and failed to take a bend. It's gone over the steel barrier and several metres down the bank.
Police say it's a timely reminder for motorists to slow down and take their time. Me tonu mai, stay with us. COVID-related deaths hit a new high in the stricken United States as LA paramedics reveal they've been told overloaded hospitals don't want to be delivered patients who aren't expected to live. Plus, the blue skies are up again down south, but last week's big wet is still causing problems for farmers. And even muddier and murky waters as the Blues get down and dirty with a dreaded pre-season rugby ritual.
Okay, I think our marriage might be over.
Trial separation.
Except not a trial.
We'll have this last.
You said something before and I ignored it because I want to watch, I want to listen. So whatever you said was lost.
Oh, I'm just tired of everything being made into a race problem. I don't think they should necessarily have compared it to the Black Lives Matter.
I do. It was quite a stark contrast. But